Welcome to the Camber Commentary 2820 Insight Edition. I'm Ernie Brother. Let's spend the next few minutes looking at one biblical truth that can help us think biblically, live faithfully, and follow Christ more closely. Here's today's insight. It's titled, It's Not Okay, but It Can Be. Our reading is going to be out of Genesis chapter 50, verse 20. As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. There are things that happen in life that are simply just not okay. Joseph knew that better than anybody. His brothers hated him. They threw him into a pit. They sold him into slavery. He was carried away from his home and family. Later, he was falsely accused and imprisoned for something he just didn't do. None of that was okay. And notice something important in this chapter and verse. Joseph did not look back at his brothers and say, what you did really wasn't that bad. He called it exactly what it was. Quote, you meant evil against me. And that matters. Forgiveness does not require us to pretend evil was good. Trusting God does not mean denying that we weren't hurt. And seeing God's purpose does not mean calling wrong right. Joseph acknowledged evil, but he also recognized that evil did not have the final word. And he continued, but God meant it for good. That little word, but, changes everything. You meant evil, but God. You tried to destroy me, but God. You thought this would be the end of my story, but God. The Hebrew behind meant carries the idea of planning, intending, or devising. In other words, Joseph was saying, you had a plan, but God had a plan too. And God's plan was bigger. The pit was not the end. The slavery was not the end. The prison was not the end. God took Joseph through every one of those places until eventually Joseph was positioned where God intended him to be, in a place where he could preserve the lives of many people, including the very brothers who had betrayed him. Now we need to be careful here. Genesis chapter 50, verse 20 does not teach that everything that happens is good. Some things are evil, some things are painful, and some things leave scars. The promise is greater than that. The promise is that God is so sovereign that even what others intend for evil cannot prevent him from accomplishing his purposes. God does not have to approve of the evil in order to overrule it. God does not have to call the wound good in order to bring it out of the wound, to bring good out of it. That means you may be able to look at something in your life and say, that was not okay. And at the very same time say, but God is not finished with it yet. Maybe somebody betrayed you or somebody lied about you. Maybe somebody abandoned you. Maybe circumstances changed your life in a way you never wanted. You do not have to rewrite history to pretend it didn't hurt. You can tell the truth about the pain and still trust God with the purpose. Joseph could look back and finally see what he could not possibly have understood while sitting in the pit. Sometimes we are asking God, why am I here? While God is still writing the part of the story that will eventually answer the question. And here may be the hardest part. Joseph did not merely recognize God's sovereignty, he allowed that understanding to change the way he treated the people who hurt him. Verse 21 goes on to say, so do not fear, I will provide for you and your little ones. Then scripture says, thus he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. That's remarkable. Joseph did not become bitter because of the pit. He did not allow what happened to him to determine what would happen through him. That may be the real challenge for us. We may not be able to change what happened yesterday, but by the grace of God, yesterday does not have to control who we become tomorrow. So here's the insight takeaway. It may not be okay. What happened may have been wrong. What someone did may have been evil. What you lost may have been completely restored in this life. But it can be redeemed. Because when God gets involved, the thing that somebody intended to destroy you may become part of the very story God uses to strengthen you, to position you, to mature you, and eventually help somebody else. The enemy may write a chapter. People may write a chapter. Pain may write a chapter. But God still holds the pen over the whole story. So when you encounter something that is not okay, remember Joseph. You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. It's not okay, but in the hands of God, it can become part of something good. Closing thought, don't confuse God's redemption of an event with God's approval of the event. The evil was still evil. The betrayal was still betrayal. The pain was still pain. It was all very real, but none of it was powerful enough to overthrow the purposes of God. And neither is whatever you are facing today. That is the difference between saying everything is good and saying God can work through everything for good. Thank you for listening. God bless you.